All right, we're back for another installment of The Why. I'm Mark Williams, and today I brought somebody along that I really look up to. He doesn't know it, but I really look up to him as far as the work that he's doing. He's worked with the top level trainers, players, top level trainers. He's traveled the world training everybody. Your favorite player, he's probably trained them. I present to you guys Tim Martin.
No, man, Mark, it's always good to get with you, man. Like, when I came out here, it's like, man, I got to hit my man Mark up. So I just love what you guys are doing, what you guys are building. It's been great to just see y'all's evolution, you know what I mean? And I'm big on just, when we have conversations or we always reconnect, like, are we talking about progress or are we talking about, like, you doing the same thing, you know what I mean? And you've never been a man to be doing the same thing. So it's always good to have that energy around.
No, thank you. And you hit me up, like, yo, let's do something. I was like, yeah, Tim's in town, let's get it. Yeah. All right, so we're going to start a real quick question. Quick question. How did you get started in the basketball training? I know that because you're I know you're not going to say, but you're at the pinnacle of one of the best trainers in the country, if not the world. How did you become that person you are today?
Man, to be honest, so I used to work at a nightclub, like the valet. When I met my father, he was running a nightclub in Dallas, Texas, and I was running the valet. And so when guys like Josh Howard and Devin Harris was come up, I'd have to help park the cars, and I used to run back into the club and introduce myself to him and his manager and stuff like that, and just ask, you know, you guys got any youth camps coming up or anything that I could be involved in to become like a volunteer. And just over the course of time, you know, they kept seeing me and they was finally like, yo, just come by the camp, you know what I mean? And then they trained it didn't show up, ironically. And so I was like the only man there at that time to where, you know, started rebounding, and then that kind of led into becoming a trainer. And this is back in like 07, 08, you know what I mean? The training industry wasn't that big back then. You had like Tim Grover and Gannon Baker and a few other guys, but there was no YouTube or social media.
Right.
So one thing led to another, man, and those guys, it just started telling other players, and it just kind of broke from there.
Okay. So you had humble beginnings.
Yeah.
So your first client, you remember him, her, or her? You remember him or her? Your personal, like a private client.
Yeah, so my cousin actually brought me into the business. His name's Fred Campbell. Okay. And so he played at Central Arkansas back in the day, and we had like his name was Jimmy, little kid. He was like a fourth grade kid at a local school. His dad actually was a coach, so his dad would open up the gym for us, and I would train him, and then it kind of went from there to working with the pros automatically. So being around Josh Howard and Devin Harris, I learned very early on what they needed, you know, as an NBA player. They wasn't coming in with all the goofy stuff. So I had a good balance though. So it wasn't like I was getting paid a lot,
right?
You know what I mean? But I had to work my way up to the top in terms of just, like I said, failing a lot, trying to figure out what works with players, what doesn't work, because you know it's
trial and error.
It's trial and error, and it's different working with a pro as it is working with a kid,
right?
You know, especially if you can't dribble,
right?
So I think for me, it just kind of organically grew from there. I just never quit and just kept, you know, trying to figure things out.
Now, I'm sure as a former player, because I know you mentioned you played, was it hard to go from asking for money?
Oh yeah, because it's an uncomfortable conversation.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Especially when you just doing, well, back then for training, I was thinking it was crazy for anybody to give me money to tell you how to shoot a jump shot.
Right.
It didn't make sense.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's like, because we didn't have it. We didn't have trainers. We had a coach, but he coached us for free.
Yep.
So the ideology behind somebody giving you a check to do something like that was just not done at that time. So for me, I had to learn how to really turn it into a business, and that started with the parents. When I was coaching like a 4th or 5th grade team, you know, I would get a little check monthly from them for my time, but then it kind of evolved into a parent would pull me to the side and say, Tim, I'll give you $600 if you could do some private sessions with my son. And that's where that, you know, that little light bulb, the ding, that went off, and I was like, damn, I could really make this into a business.
Right. So how did you go from little Jimmy at 600, let's say for instance, to now Josh Howard, asking Josh Howard and on his agency, whomever,
yeah,
how did you scale that up?
So I flipped it in terms of marketing. So I think I had an old YouTube video. My friend Raf Barlow, who's now involved in doing his own scouting service, he filmed it with the first ever iPad. So when the iPads first came out, he grabbed it and he just filmed us, and we posted it. That was my first YouTube video. So for me, it was more so of like, instead of going after the money, let me go after the name And because I'm associated with somebody like that, I think that I could promote that, and eventually that could lead into more clientele.
Well, that's smart.
Yeah.
That's very smart, actually. So you were using marketing in 07, 08, and you didn't even know.
Trying to, man. Because, like, for me, I was always big into storytelling. And that's what kind of, like, segued us into creating the documentary, The Beautiful Struggle, and doing things like that. Because I've always felt like film or making videos is a form of art. You know what I mean? It's like visual art. That's what it is. So Hype Williams was another major, like, when that movie Belly came out, I was always thinking about, like, man, it would be cool if we had like a basketball edition of this. So having that idea early on was something that inspired me. But then at the same time, I mean, Josh and Devin, they ended up paying me. You know what I mean? It wasn't like they were just doing free work, but it just kind of merged together, and that's what kind of sparked this whole era.
Now, being that you're one of, like I mentioned earlier, one of the pioneers of all of this, right? The training aspect. How has been the transition from being a local guy to now where you're considered one of the best in the world, for that matter?
It's been odd at times for me because it's so surreal. Like, a lot of these players that I'm watching in the NBA All-Star game or whatever, we started in 8th or 9th grade. And so I don't ever get caught up in that, but if anything, it's more of an imposter syndrome. So I've had a good friend of mine, Andre Sawh, who's actually from Harlem. You know Andre. I met him in Central Park.
On a humble? Right.
Just I'm going for my morning walk, and he's like, "Hey, you Tim Martin?" And so getting seen out in public, you know, it's flattering, it's humbling, but at the same time, it feels weird just because I don't do this for none of that. It's genuinely just because I want guys to get better. I enjoy it. Like we talked about earlier, social media is that necessary evil.
Right.
If I could go back to a BlackBerry or a flip phone and get away from all this, I would in a heartbeat. But I'm learning how to transition into who I've become over the time. So, you know, for anybody that may be dealing with that, you know, I've always suffered with that just because you have to remind yourself who you are from time to time. And I remember Hov said that, you got to remind people. But for me, man, it's always a work in progress. So I'm happy with where I'm at. I'd rather be in this position than not. But at the same time, it's always about, you know, growth.
Right.
That's it, progress.
Now, you worked with Maxey with the Sixers. We all know about the French sensation that you have, and also other NBA players. What advice would you give the next generation as far as running a business part of basketball, the business part of the basketball training, as far as 1099s and income taxes and stuff like that?
Yeah, get a damn accountant. Like, dude, this whole time, because, you know, I'm going from being homeless, obviously, you know, I have my son, and just trying to navigate that space. It's cool when you're getting cash or you're getting Cash App, but then once you get around this time, tax season, you're not really paying attention to how you're swiping your card, or all the times that I was throwing cash away, buying stuff, buying some shoes, and I never had a receipt. That's just lost money. So I think if I could go back, I would definitely align myself with an account firm, somebody that could at least help me navigate my spending habits, which has been reckless in my youth, and but just understanding how money actually works and how you could really pay yourself for your future. You know what I mean? I think that's the biggest thing, because we both know as you get older, it gets harder and harder every year to get back in the gym and to generate not just the dollars, but just to give this game energy. You know what I mean? Because it's getting sucked out of you so much from players and parents, and everybody just wants something from you. So the money is the medicine. You know what I mean? But the accounting is what's going to really protect you from the headaches later on.
Right, I 1000% agree, particularly because people don't know that you buy, like you mentioned, a pair of sneakers can be deemed a write-off because that's work-related expense. Right. Or traveling to a gym to gym. Yeah. Or even renting a gym. Yeah. All those things can be deemed expenses for a business. But you have to be a business first, so you can't be a hobby, right? Yeah, so, and that's something too with players. Like on the flip side, players got to understand that. Like I got a lot of NBA players, and just it could be a college player, it could be anybody. They don't understand that when you pay a trainer, that's a business write-off. You know what I mean? That's an expense that's considered to where if they're not paying you, it's going to the IRS.
So if you don't invest into yourself, you hear about LeBron James, spending over $1 million.
Yeah.
Been around Dwayne Wade. He definitely spends probably at least close to that. He's got a chef. He's got a good team that handles his off-court stuff, but that's all write-offs. You know what I mean? So you got to invest in yourself.
Oh, you brought up a good point. I wasn't thinking about this, but the college athlete with the NIL, if they don't have a company of some sort, they're going to get taxed heavily on their end also.
Yeah.
Because they're getting money, let's say, from Gatorade. Gatorade maybe giving them $100,000. Who knows? But if they just can't give it to Tim Martin, they have to give it to Tim Martin Inc.
Yeah.
So they can take advantage of the full taxes.
Right. Getting your enterprise, getting the trust.
Yeah.
Just having a conversation or a consultation with a lawyer will go a long way. You know, but when you're young, I mean, when I was 19, you gave me $1 million.
I'm out.
Yeah, we're going straight to Foot Locker.
Yeah,
So we're not worried about sitting down with a lawyer at that age. So it's all about advisement and just making sure you hear these things, but are you doing them? It's two different things.
Right. So. Okay, now we're in a new generation of basketball. We've seen recently, I don't know when we want to air this, but the All-Star game wasn't what we grew up on.
Right.
And nothing against the players themselves. Maybe, what would you change if you had a magic wand to change the NBA All-Star game and also the training profession as a whole? Not as a whole, but parts of it, I should say.
Either you get rid of the All-Star game, which I don't think that'll ever happen, but I think you got to limit the appearances. So when we talk about absorbing energy, right? Each All-Star is they got to do X amount of appearances and interviews and speaking engagements or what have you. If they have no downtime, it's going to be hard for them to have the energy to be able to compete.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So either we restructure the media appearances off the court, or you go to like a 3-on-3 or a 1-on-1. I think they used to do that actually back in the day.
They did 1-on-1 in mine, like when I was a child. Like in the 70s.
Yeah, like after the ABA and NBA merge, right? Yeah. So like the 1-on-1, I think would be dope.
Yeah.
Or you bring in Ice Cube to help, build out the mystique of the 3-on-3 and just kind of do like a collaboration, and then let the fans get involved on choosing the teams on the 3-on-3 and kind of bring it back to like the old hoop it up version. You know what I'm saying? So I think that'd be way more entertaining. With the incentive of obviously like maybe the team wins $1 million. There was somebody that actually recommended that. I forgot which player it was.
Yeah, I've seen that also.
Yeah, but I just saw that on social media and that was a great idea. I mean, I think that would work.
$1 million to today's player may not be enough, only because you have, no disrespect, I'm not counting his money, but let's say Jaylen Brown is making $360, right? $1 million maybe.
Yeah.
I'm assuming.
Right.
Big assumption that may not be enough incentive, but an incentive is needed, I think.
But what was the incentive? I forgot the number. Was it 500,000 for the
back in the days?
Well, for the NBA tournament, the in-season tournament.
I think it's 500,000.
I felt like the energy was way different.
Way different.
Like guys was competing more during that tournament than ever before.
Right.
So I don't know if it's $1 million or not, but I know a lot of these guys would at least think about competing, you know what I mean, as opposed to just going out there shooting half-court threes.
Yeah, hanging out on the court.
Yep.
Okay, now regarding the training space, again, you're at the pinnacle of all where people want to get. They want to work with the clientele you have. What do you see on the grassroots level? Because you did grassroots basketball also.
Yeah.
What do you think would be what needs to change?
They got to play more pickup. I think I use boxing, man. I watch a lot of other sports outside of basketball, but boxing is very symbolic because it's a reactionary sport. You know what I'm saying? And that's something that I see a lot of trainers, they taking these players and doing a lot of like one-on-0 stuff. Everything's with the ball in your hands. So I referenced this, I think last time we spoke. It's like hitting a punching bag or hitting a jump rope where you got the technique down, but you trying to go from that straight into the boxing ring. You're gonna get your ass knocked out.
Yeah.
You gotta be able to absorb punches. You gotta be able to learn how to dodge punches. You know what I mean? And to have that sparring match to be able to work and translate that into a game. So pickup basketball allows you to just play and to think through trial and error and make mistakes. But I don't think we have enough OGs because that's how we learn. You're not playing defense. The worst thing back in the day is hey, Mark, come on, let's switch.
Yep.
Let me guard him.
I would never do that.
You know what I mean?
That's never switch it.
That would hit your pride. You know what I mean? As a
Never
man.
switch.
So I think pickup basketball is something that I've really been implementing in my workouts too. Is okay, we're gonna work on different variant finishes. Like let's say we're working on your floater. We're gonna do that for about 30 minutes, and then the other 30 minutes, the only way you could score in a pickup session is through a floater. You know what I mean? And I think just getting a lot of those reps and just getting that feel is gonna allow you to be able to correct yourself in the game.
I agree.
Yeah.
1000%. One other thing regarding training. Trainers are popping up day to day. And there was a time that I would get upset at trainers popping up day to day.
Facts.
Right? But now, it is what it is, right?
Yeah.
How do you, what advice would you give the next upcoming trainer as far as them actually helping the players get better? What advice would you provide them?
First, you gotta care. As simple as that may be, man, don't look at these players as dollar signs. Because if you doing this for the money, you're not gonna make money. And you're not gonna make money even if it's the other way around. You know what I mean? It takes time, and I think for me, I don't know everything about basketball. I don't even consider myself like the best teacher. But what I am one of the best at is I'm able to connect with players almost better than anybody because I care. I get to know what they like, what type of music, what type of food, what type of people they like hanging out with. You know what I mean? I really dive deep into who they are as people. And I think that helps evolve not just the relationship, but the trust factor. And now once you have a trust or a relationship with that person or player, whatever you say, they're gonna at least take heed to it and at least try it.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Try it out. So I think for these young guys or young trainers, man, you gotta really tap into knowing who these people are on and off the court and invest. You talk about becoming a great trainer on the court. For the amount of time on the court, is probably way more off the court that I spent with these players to get them where they're at today.
Yeah, I think that's a missing component in today's world. They're just gonna throw drills out there and not get to know the player. Like,
Yeah, and dude, if you don't invest in people, they just never, you just won't retain them. They're gonna go find somebody else to make them feel a certain type of way.
Agreed, 1000%. All right. Now I know that you trained again NBA players. I'm sure you did WNBA players also, right? Well, not being disparaging towards either. Which one do you feel you get the most satisfaction out of training?
WNBA. Only because women, one, they listen. I didn't really understand that because, you know, I've had plenty of women tell me, you don't listen. But I think women, not only do they listen, but they comprehend very quickly. And so their ability to retain information, I think we all could allude that women, y'all don't forget nothing. You know what I mean? So it's
I'll be quiet on that one.
yeah, but it's a good thing because it helps us as coaches because we're able to like trace the progression of a player. So when you work out with a woman, if I was to like start her off on ball handling, that information is automatically embedded in her head to where like we can move on gradually and progress into the next aspect of her game. With men, I have to find 10,000 ways to say the same thing before we could advance into the progression of the player. So it's a lot easier with women, and then plus the satisfaction I get from them, it's a different kind of reciprocated appreciation. So I get it from men, you know what I'm saying? But it's just more natural coming from women. They'll just, even a small thank you for that workout. It means a lot. That's why I do this, just for somebody to feel appreciated. Just like when you're doing your work, you just want to feel appreciated, and you'll go even harder for that. So,
Yeah, I love a dap or a thank you at the end of a workout.
yeah, that's it. That's all I need.
That's it. I'm good.
Yeah, not an entitlement aspect to where it's like, all right, what time tomorrow?
Yeah.
So it's just a different conversation, different relationship. You know, working with men versus women.
Okay. My issues are the same. Where you have coaches now becoming trainers. And what's happening is they're keeping everyone inside their building, their environment, and not farming out the professionals, the working professionals. So let's say you're an AAU coach, let's say Mocan, right?
Yeah.
And you become a trainer, and you start working on stuff that's going to help that player for your team.
Right.
You're not going to put him in a position to get better overall because you want him to be a catch and shoot guy in the corner.
Yeah.
So you're going to work exclusively on a catch and shoot.
Yeah.
Whereas me, Mark Williams, a separate person entity from you, I'm going to have him work on between cross ball into whatever, something different.
Right.
So I think that's what's happening now. We're getting pigeonholed players, and I hear it across the country also. Where, and it makes sense from the money standpoint. A coach in Mocan, in your program, used to be, if I'm getting $200 a session, they say, why the fuck can I not get $200 a session?
Yeah.
Why give the money to Mark when I can do the same exact thing?
Right. And they're not understanding your philosophy
at all.
Yeah.
So they're doing their philosophy based upon what they need that player to do.
Right.
And I'm trying to enhance their skill set for the next level. Fuck this high school shit.
Yeah.
Fuck high school. This is trash. Anybody can score in high school.
Right.
Let's get ready for the next level.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm doing. But they're getting them ready for high school.
Yeah. Nah, let's definitely, if we could get that, because I think that was that running?
It was? Uh-oh.
That's perfect. No, that's perfect. Now, hey, if Mark Edwards was here, we'd all be cussing.
Oh, yeah, no. No, I mean, there's trouble as far as, I didn't alienate anybody, did I? I'm old.
You could even throw a beep in there.
I don't give a fuck.
Just, that's my point. It's like, it gets to a point where it's like, you have to be politically correct because you don't want to sabotage yourself.
Yeah.
But then on the flip side, it's just like, man, who gives a fuck? Like, you got to keep going. Do you feel like the play in New York are losing their hunger?
Yeah, and I'm gonna say it this way. Yes, I think that because my generation, just like your generation, our job is to get our son or daughter to the next level, right?
Yeah.
Socially. So if we were eating peanut butter and jelly, we don't want them to eat peanut butter and jelly. We want them to eat steak and cheese, right?
Yeah.
So we've done that. So with that hunger that was attached to that peanut butter and jelly is no longer there for that steak and cheese.
Yeah.
And it's because we moved out to the burbs.
Yeah.
We're not in the hood no more. The hood is not even the hood anymore.
Right.
So you don't know where that hunger. No one fights.
Do you feel like New York's still the Mecca?
I think historically we are.
Yeah.
I don't think currently we are.
Right.
I think I equate it to music. I think that New York City was the music capital of the world as far as producing rap music. I'm not saying R&B.
Yeah.
But rap music. I think now different parts of the country have surpassed us.
Yeah.
Atlanta at one point. Drill in Detroit. Whatever that's going on. It's just we're stuck.
Yeah.
And the people that would do it aren't necessarily doing it. They're selling out because they want to sell records like the Atlanta, the Detroit, or the Cali.
Right.
So we're not trend setting anymore.
It's interesting too about like, because I look at just when you talk about culture, right? New York originated the rap culture, originated really basketball and the street ball culture, along with just the entertainment of basketball. You know what I mean? The style of play.
Pizzazz.
And I would say from the 70s to late 90s, y'all had that window of dominating the era. And it's just, with this newer generation coming in, let's just say you was born in from 2000 after, right? I don't really see, like you said, that same grit, but then at the same time, what was it, the Catholic League that y'all used to have?
Catholic League, yeah.
That's no more, right? So you don't have those rivalries, and then a lot of the New York players that are in the NBA currently, I see them all go to they dip out and go to prep school.
Yep.
So
I don't think we have that many New York players. New York City. We have New York State. We have Tobias in Long Island.
Okay.
Danny Green. Well, I don't know if he's still in the league, but he was just recently in the league. I don't think we have too many.
Lance Stevenson.
City.
Yeah.
But for the most part, we don't have a lot of new players. Cole Anthony.
Yeah.
But he dipped out. He left his senior year.
Right.
He went to Oak Hill. Moses Brown. I don't think he's not in the league anymore.
Do you think it'll ever get back to that in New York? Culturally?
No, I don't think the dominance that we had, that 20-year window that you mentioned, I think that's far long gone. That's gone.
Yeah.
I will say we will have a sprinkling of players that do well in the league, but for the most part, if you want a better life, and no disrespect to New York as a state, New York State is not where you want to be. We don't have access to facilities as much as Dallas, or Texas, I should say. We don't have the beautiful weather where we can go outside like a Florida. We don't have the teachers within basketball that's in it for the actual cause of basketball, not the finances attached to basketball. And then we don't have the it factor anymore. Because what made New York special, we had marketing, Madison Avenue, advertising world. We don't have that anymore. This is now Madison Avenue. You can put a video up and go viral. It could be a little kid crossing over another kid, and I go just as viral as somebody just as good. Whereas back in the days, if you had a handle, you was that motherfucker.
Man, we one of the things I feel like, not just New York, but just in general in this business, we need more people like you. And when we was just talking about other trainers like coming up, like people that need to care. Like, dude, I've seen you give your life to the game of basketball and give your life to keeping New York basketball relevant. You know what I'm saying? So, like, kudos to you guys, because that's something that, man, it's so sacred. Like, I'm blessed and fortunate enough to talk to Guy Shamgod. You know, he's out there in Dallas working with the Mavericks, and Rod Strickland, and I'm just always fascinated by the stories of back in the day. You know what I mean? And so you're one of the very few people that is still trying to keep New York basketball relevant. So it's important though. You know what I mean? It really is.
And Sham is actually my cousin.
Really? That's a small world.
Yeah, it's my cousin. Man. But I think that it has to be. I'm really in for the culture. And I think that we have a tribe, and we have a couple of them here, and we really I try to have them empower, like I mentioned earlier, empower them as much as possible to keep the legacy going. Because at some point, Mark Williams is going to die. I hope that Footprints remains a part of the legacy.
Is that Footprints from Psalms?
I stole it from here.
So that's the whole essence of what your brand is all about.
Create your own footprint, and then.
So you leaving a trail for the next generation to come. That's dope. I like that. I like that. But that's how it's supposed to be. But that's why I think that's another key to longevity, is how this how karma works. You know what I mean? What you give is what you receive. But I think we get so caught up in what am I getting? And I went to church, I think, with Pastor Evans. It's out in Oak Cliff Bible in Dallas, Texas. And one of the sermons, he was talking about just that very thing, on how karma actually works. And in essence, the people that you bless won't be the ones to bless you. It'll come full circle from somebody else. And so to see you guys doing what y'all are doing, I can understand why you have longevity in this business, because whoever you're blessing is usually not coming back to you, but you get these other opportunities to continue to build your name, build your brand, build your relationships with more players. So I've seen the growth and the expansion. So
no, I appreciate it. Thank you. And your pastor's actually right. One of the biggest things that we don't trumpet as much as we should, is trainers that used to train with us are now college coaches. And to me, that's a lot. That's big to me, only because now you learn the trenches as far as training. Now you're able to flip that into the real world, on the collegiate level, where like I can almost go to almost any gym in the country and have an assistant coach that I know that at some point worked with us or did something with us.
You know what? And I'm glad you said that, because I didn't hit on that, and that's what I do in my mentorship program. Is something that probably makes me more happier than seeing a player that I worked with from high school make it to the NBA. Is seeing a college coach be able to get to the pinnacle of where they want to go, because it's different, man. It's a different kind of gauntlet trying to become a coach in whether it's high school, college, or to the promised land in the NBA. And so to be able to extend that offering and get guys around you, and then now they go off to have a better career, that's a beautiful thing.
Without a doubt. And I'm going to touch upon your mentorship program. What made you get into that?
Man, just honestly, everybody hitting me up in the DM asking me. So obviously I saw it was a demand for it. But I think the most important thing is getting other coaches to come on, jump on a Zoom call. Let's discuss philosophy and have conversations. So there's moments where I'm lecturing and I'm teaching, like from drill work or just how to actually build your business. But I think ultimately it's about creating that community and creating that tribe, like you talked about, to where now when I even remove myself for a week or whatever, these other coaches are talking amongst each other, and these are coaches from all over the world that are now united and are able to share information, but then also be able to piggyback and build their companies together or collectively. You know what I mean? So I may have a coach up here in New York trying to do a camp in Florida, you know, and hey, now he's got gym access, and that's really what all of this is about. I mean, even for me and you, we connected, and now we got a bond to where if you need something in Texas, you can hit me or vice versa. So I think that's what all this is about. At least in my mentorship program, I try to teach the essence of relationships, and that relationships is the currency. Because relationships is going to get you indoors that money can't. And, you know, that's what got us here to this point, and you never know when you're going to need somebody. So I think in that program, it's all about building that establishment to where at any given moment you could ask a question and it could be answered.
I agree. I think that these are goals, and I say these as far as the phone books. Right. You know the phrase, your net worth is your net worth?
Dude, I was just saying that.
That's the realest shit on the world.
In fact, it really is. And you don't see the amount of dollars, but it's just like it's like a garden, right? You plant a seed and you expecting that plant to grow and you're trying to reap the fruits of it, but you got to give it time. You're not going to see that net worth until it accumulates. You know, it may take 10 years. Right. And that's why they call it the 10,000 hours aspect. Later on, you'll reap that benefit and have that sustainability.
Yeah, that's dope. No, you're dead right. I didn't realize that until you get older.
Yeah.
And I would caution, I know you have access to college players or soon to be college players. They have to do a better job, to my understanding, but to in my opinion, of choosing colleges not for year 1 through 4 for basketball purposes, but 5 through life.
Yes.
So, for instance, let's say you have, and I'm not knocking these schools, but you have a chance to go to the University of Pittsburgh for basketball, and you also have Notre Dame on the table. Again, not knocking Pittsburgh. But you can make just as many connections, if not lifelong connections, at a school similar to Notre Dame. Right. And I'm not nothing against Pittsburgh and Notre Dame, but it's just you have to choose 5 through 7 life years as opposed to 1 through 4.
Right. And that it's funny that you say that, because 2 things I always tell high school kids going into college to really look for on choosing your college is 1, the weather. Like if you want to go to the University of Oregon, right? Just make sure that you like rain. You know what I'm saying? Or a cloudy atmosphere. I mean, nothing against the University of Oregon, but I think weather has a huge effect on our mood. You know, at least it do for me. If I wake up and it's sunny outside, I feel good. And if it's you know, cloudy, I know I got to kind of build myself up to get into that good mood. So that, and then the alumni aspect, as you alluded to, the alumni is going to keep you in the game of business. You know what I'm saying? They're going to be your potential investors in your real estate company or whatever you venture off to do outside of basketball. That's the plug that you want to be connected to. So not every university has that type of prestige, but when you start tapping into the community of the boosters and the alumni, and they all want to be around the athletes anyway. I mean, who knows? You could build your own sports agency or your own billion-dollar enterprise.
Agreed. So, and I think what's going to hurt some of these student athletes is the transfer portal from this standpoint. And I'm all for it. And I'm all for NIL getting the money. I'm all for that. But when you graduate, when you're done, and you did 3 colleges, you did Toledo, again, not Toledo, Ohio State, and then you ended up going to UCLA. Who are you claiming as your graduate? Which alumni base can you go F with? That's going to take care of you from year 5 to life. I think that's important.
That's a great point, because on top of that, you never gave it time to build those relationships.
You've been there a year and a half.
If you're staying somewhere for 2 or 3 years, you know, you may be able to have a couple more meals with a booster and just talk business, or to have him as your mentor, him or her as your mentor. You know what I mean? So I think this rapid pace that we're moving as a society, especially in basketball, where we want this instant gratification, it's not a sustainable business model.
Agreed.
Not at all.
Agreed. So big time, I agree. I don't know if we're going to be able to use any of that shit, but I think we will. That shit was fire. We were filming, correct? All right.
It'd be those moments you don't. You be like, damn, got all the good stuff off the air.
Yeah, I'm gonna wrap it up. I got nothing else. I know you got to go.
No, that's cool, man.
I can wrap it. Oh, my bad. This is a wrap. This is Mark Williams, Team Footprints. Clay Brown, Liv is here. I had my man from Dallas came up just to see us. Well, not really, just to hang out in New York City. And my man Tim Martin, man. Thank you, man.
Thank you, man.
Appreciate
Love
it,
what
man.
you're doing.
Shit,
Yeah,
thank you.
you too.
Keep up the good work.
Yeah.
And tell women.